you've stopped short a couple of times in recent days of basically saying that they can't win the flag. Damien Hardwick often talks about that flags aren't won in May or June, but you need to be hitting form at the right time of the year, which is now, and they're way behind the 8 ball compared to previous premiers.
Yeah, what I've said for a number of weeks is that if the finals would happen now, they won't win it. But as every week goes by, I just become clearer and clearer that they're just not a team that's good enough to win a premiership because they've just got not many players in good form. There's no synergy between the line groups. And we just showed a graph there that you pretty much hardly lose a game from this point on, and yet they've dropped another one. Lost 5 of their last 8, Hutchie, so it's not good signs.
And hunger too. Like, they beat up on Richmond because they were hungry a few Thursday nights ago. When they play with that, remember Jack Viney, just like an absolute terrier. They've lost
How many of their players do you think have improved year on year? Look at the data, which doesn't always tell the story, as you've told us many times on Footy Classified over the course of the year. But those players are all sub-ratings points in 22 to last year. Now, some high benchmarks against some of them, Petrarca included. But in pure stats, they're not at the level they were last year. And there's a whole another group who are kind of case neutral.
Yeah. And I don't think
there's a lot of organic improvement coming at the bottom of the
I don't think you need the numbers to tell you that. The eye test would tell you that Levers hasn't been the same, May hasn't, Gawn hasn't. So they're not just their second-tier players, they're their leaders. Now, they can still win the premiership. Make no mistake, Melbourne can still win this premiership.
What gives you that confidence?
Well, look at the structure is there, Lordo. If they can
build... What structure? They're not actually...
Defensively, they're good. They can switch it on defensively. When they get that ferocity around the ball, when Gawn gets back to playing a bit of footy. Yeah, I understand that, but I give them a bit more credit for what they've done and for the 10 or 11 games that they won in a row than perhaps others do, rightly or wrongly. I think you get a few more extra points for the work that you've done.
Do you remember last year when they were going on that premiership run? We were hearing from Max Gawn, from Clayton Oliver, from Christian Petrarca talking about we used to be a selfish team. And that's why we weren't getting the results, but we started playing for each other. I think there might be a view within the industry that have they fallen back into some old habits? Let's take a listen to Matthew Stokes, the 2-time premiership winner at Geelong, who's speaking on the Real Footy podcast for The Age today.
I don't think it's so much a lack of maturity. I think it's a lack of attitude. That's probably the way I look at it. When you're picking and choosing your moments in a game to go hard or not to go, where you want to push really hard in defence to give your defenders a chop out. You know, even some of the stuff that you see from some of the forward lines, not giving to better players in better positions. They're all combined into a team from an outsider looking in as saying, are they the attitudes right? That it's all team. Scotty coached me for 6 years and had a really intense persona, and he was like that as a player. But what I'm seeing in Scotty over the last 12 months is this relaxed attitude towards it, and I think you can see it in his players. You can imagine what the players are feeling, and that's showing in their game. You know, they're playing a little bit more free.
That second part, Gornsey, Matthew was speaking about Chris Scott, who, of course, everyone now has as the #1 seed, Geelong, or most of them do. And I haven't actually heard that before, Archie, that... You know, Nathan Buckley, we talked about in 2018, kind of letting go and changing. Simon Goodwin had that narrative last year, and it sounds like Chris Scott has relaxed some of his ways.
Yeah, well, you have to do that when you've been there for such a long period of time. You've got to
create change.
Yeah, you need to do that, give others responsibility, different voices. But just on who can win, like, no one's going that well, are they? Like, Geelong are going really well, but they didn't look great in the third quarter when Port Adelaide kicked 8-1. So who is actually right in premiership contention? That's why you've still got a little bit of confidence in Melbourne.
I was a cynic on Geelong coming into the season. They've been superb, and they're getting organic improvement. And the players like Tom Atkins, who turned the game on the weekend in the last quarter. He's 26. He's been through a very tough road to get here as a one-time rookie, as a 22-year-old, and he's still carrying that mindset into games.
I don't care where I play, I'm just happy to be in the 22 at the moment, and there's a lot of great guys in the VFL that are missing out at the moment, so I think we owe it to them to play well. I owe it to them because I'm on the fringe, so yeah, I'm just happy that we're able to win.
And then there's so that's Atkins, who's been superb, and then there's this guy Blixarves, who, now, to call this for what it is, I'm close checking you. You're a new All-Australian selector. You're the defensive maestro in this group. If you're not pushing and belting the door down...
What position?
Any position. He's that's my whole point. He's the only All-Australian that can play all 18 positions.
Yeah.
He's the most versatile footballer the game has ever produced. He's a shut-down midfielder and a ruckman and a centre-half-back when he needs to be.
You're just jumping on the back of all the other hype. Has he had that big a year?
He'll win Geelong's best and fairest in the top team.
He's an important player. in the structure of Geelong, but has he had an All-Australian season?
If you're not belting that desk down, I would be so disappointed in your first year as a selector.
No, I think you've just jumped on the media hype around him. He's no doubt
how could he be going any
really
better
important,
than he is?
But where are you going to pick? As a second ruckman or a wingman?
It is a weakness of the All-Australian team, and that's nothing to do with you, but just the setup of it. Sometimes players miss out based on a positional disadvantage. Like, there's no standout wingman at the moment this year in the All-Australian team. So you might end up picking a midfielder who plays on the wing a bit. But a Blitzarves could miss out because, to your point, where do we put him?
I think the first point is you've got to look at, have they had an All-Australian calibre season? You're saying he has. That will be all in consideration. But he's going to...
Would you agree with that? Has he had an All-Australian type season? Forget about which position he plays.
I won't comment on that because that will give away my opinion on it.
I think you've already given away your opinion.
There'll be some significant debate about it.
No, you've already given away your opinion.
I haven't at all. I'm just questioning your opinion.
That is a shocking irony that the most versatile player the game's ever produced might miss a spot because there's not a spot for him in the team, and where does he play?
A lot of people,
that's
a lot
so
of players
illogical.
might miss a spot. I mean, Tom Hawkins or Charlie Curnow might miss a spot. There's been some pretty good forwards. There's been some outstanding half-backs.
Can I just say on Geelong too, where I'm really confident compared to Melbourne, is the improvement that they've got from, you just mentioned Atkins. So Stengel comes in, has changed them. Jeremy Cameron's role is completely different. Mitch Duncan's role. So Simon Goodwin, with the evolution of the team, probably aren't seeing too much different there, whereas Geelong, he's worked real hard over the break with a game style and individuals with the way they're playing their footy.